Hi everybody. Today we're going to be talking about comparing negative fractions. Now, before we can compare anything, we need to know what we're talking about. What does it mean when I ask you to compare two numbers? Okay, so I've got 9 and 4 here. And I ask you, I want you to compare 9 and 4. And I know somebody's going to say, well, compare them how? Like how they look? Like 9 kind of looks like, I don't know if I drew this here, like a little turtle with his head poking out there. Okay. There's my little turtle. It's a happy turtle. He's wagging his tail. Okay. And 4 kind of looks like, oh, I don't know if I took this dude and like turned him a little bit. Kind of looks like a guy with like a little sword and shield action going on here. Okay. Like a little uh, Lord of the Rings type dude. Okay. No, that's not what we mean. When we compare two numbers, we're asking, what we want to do is we want to find the relative size of those numbers. That means, are these numbers the same size? Is one bigger than another? Which one is bigger? Okay, now if we're going to find that out, we need to understand something about the number line. On the number line, as you go to the left, numbers get smaller. Okay, and as you go to the right, numbers get bigger. So what that means is if we want to compare two numbers, like, oh, I don't know, let's compare 1 and 2 over here. Here's 1 and here's 2. Well, 1 is to the left of 2, which means it is smaller than 2. So what I would write here is that 1 is less than 2. I could also write that 2 is greater than 1. Okay? These two things are saying the same thing. All right, so now that we know how to use the number line to compare numbers, let's do some examples. Okay, I'm just going to take these straight out of your textbook and we'll work these out. All right, so first of all, let's take a look here. 1/2 and -3/4. So we want to be able to compare these things. Which one is bigger? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a freebie. You don't have to do any math whatsoever. This is a positive number, which means to the right of 0. This is a negative number, which means to the left of 0. Every positive number is going to be bigger than every negative number. So without doing any math whatsoever, I can say that 1/2 is greater than -3/4. Let's try another one. Let's do 0.25 compared with 3/4. All right, now, to compare numbers, you have to have them in the same format, okay? So you either have to be comparing decimals to decimals or fractions to fractions. I'm going to go ahead and make this one here, 3/4, into a decimal and then compare the two. Okay, so 3/4 is equal to what over 100? Well, if I multiply by 25 and multiply by 25, I'll get 75 over 100, which is 75 hundredths. Bam. Okay, there we go. So I took 3/4 and converted it to 0.75. Now clearly, 0.25 is less than 0.75. Okay, so again, the key to comparing numbers is you have to have them in the same format. So decimals to decimals or fractions to fractions. Let's try another one just like that. Let's compare 1/4 to 0.4. I'll start putting the 0 because your book does. Okay, now in this case, I'm going to go ahead, I could do it either way, but I'm going to go ahead and convert this decimal into a fraction and then compare. It's going to be a little bit tougher, but that's fine. I just want to do it so you can see how to do it. So 0.4 means 4/10. So I'm going to say that 0.4 is equal to 4 over 10, which simplifies to 2/5. Okay, and I got this from just reading what this number is. This is 4/10. I write it as a fraction and simplify. Okay, so now we need to compare. Scale this down a little bit. Now what we're comparing are 1 over 4 and 2 over 5. Now again, with fractions, to compare fractions, what you need to do is you have to have a common denominator. Okay, so I'm going to pick a common denominator for 4 and 5, which is 20. So I'm going to write this as an equivalent fraction with a 20 in the denominator. Let's see, 1/4 is equal to 5/20, and 2/5 is equal to, well, let's see, 5 times 4 is 20, 2 times 4 is 8. Which one of these is bigger? Well, clearly, 8/20ths is bigger than 5/20ths. All right, let's flip the script for a second and do one with negatives. Negative 0.4, and we're going to compare this with negative 4/5. Okay. Again, gotta have your numbers in the same format. So this decimal, I would either turn to a fraction or I could change this fraction to a decimal. Let's go ahead and make this into a fraction. So negative 4/10 is going to be negative 4/10, which is equal to negative 2/5. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's just take these somewhere else for a second. Let's move this guy over here, and I'm going to compare that with this guy over here. All right. So I'm comparing negative 2/5 to negative 4/5. Now, what I want you to be thinking is this is 2/5 to the left. That's what that means, 2/5 to the left. This is 4/5 to the left. So I'm going to draw a quick little number line here. All right, so here's 0 to negative 1. This number here would be 1, 2 places to the left. This number here is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the left. Now remember, further to the left means smaller. So that means that negative 2/5 is actually bigger than negative 4/5. Now I hope that's not misleading because the 2 is less than the 4. But because these are negatives, we have to think about which one is further to the left. You don't need to draw a picture every time, but if it helps you, go ahead and do it. All right. Let's do another one. Let's do a hard one. Let's say I want to compare negative 1/3 and negative 3/8. Okay, so I have two fractions, that's good. But if you're going to compare fractions, your fractions need to have a common denominator. Okay, so I'm going to write 1/3 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 24. The least common multiple of 3 and 8 is 24. 3 times 8 gives me 24. Means I need to multiply the 1 times 8. I'm going to do the same thing over here, but I'm going to multiply the 8 times 3 and the 3 times 3. And there we go. We have equivalent fractions with a common denominator. Now again, since these are negatives, think of this as being 8 steps to the left, and this is 1 more step to the left. So that means this is smaller than this one, and I can say negative, and we should probably put that back up here, that 1/3 is greater than, negative 1/3 is greater than negative 3/8. Okay, so the key is, when doing these, number 1, the first thing that has to be true, same format. Now, maybe there's a better word for that. I'm just going to use format. So what I mean by that is decimals to decimals, okay? Decimals to, you know what? I'm just going to say this because writing it on this little screen is going to be difficult. So if you're comparing numbers, you have to compare them in the same format. That means decimals to decimals and fractions to fractions. If you're comparing fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Okay? That's really it. I don't know why I'm numbering these things. That's really it. You just need to have decimals compared to decimals, fractions to fractions. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done. All right. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments.